Random House Audio presents The Genius Factory, The Curious History of the Nobel Prize Sperm Bank by David Plotz. Read for you by Stefan Rudnicki. Author's Note: many of the names in the following discussion are pseudonyms. I have changed the names of all the sperm donors except William Shockley, who publicly and proudly admitted his contribution to the bank. I have changed the names of all the Nobel Sperm Bank children, as well as their parents, except two, Victoria Kowalski and Doron Blake. Their names have been public for more than 20 years. I have also changed identifying details about the donors and children, notably their hometowns and professions. The Los Angeles Times headline beckoned like a bulletin from the future. Sperm Bank donors all Nobel winners. Plan seeks to enrich human gene pool. It was February 29th, 1980, Leap Day. That strange quasi-day seemed right for such an otherworldly story. The article began by describing the Sperm Bank as the world's most exclusive men's club, then piled on the weirdness. A reclusive zillionaire, a secret cadre of Nobel geniuses, the women of Mensa, a mysterious ultra-modern fertility technology, a sinister experiment to improve the human race. The article introduced America to Robert K. Graham, a most unlikely sperm banker. The 74-year-old optometrist, who had made $100 million by inventing shatterproof plastic eyeglasses, was on a mission to collect sperm from Nobel-laureates. He was storing the prize seed in an underground bunker on his Escondido, California estate, and he was distributing it only to women smart enough to qualify for the high IQ society, Mensa. Graham had given his sperm bank a name that had the thud of second-rate science fiction: the Repository for Germinal Choice. Graham told Times reporter Edwin Chen he had already enlisted 3 Nobel Prize-winning scientists to deliver their sperm, and eventually he intended to canvass all the world's Nobel laureates. So far, Graham said, 24 Mensa women had contacted him, and he had shipped frozen Nobel sperm to 3 of them. The sperm bank was not a prank, Graham insisted to Chen, and not a rich man's folly. Graham said he was trying to save mankind from genetic catastrophe. In modern America, the millionaire complained, cradle-to-grave social welfare programs paid incompetents and imbeciles to reproduce. As a result, retrograde humans were swamping the intelligent minority. This dysgenic crisis would soon cause the evolutionary regression of mankind, as well as global communism. How could we save ourselves? Graham had the answer. Our best specimens, and specimens is just the kind of word Graham would use to describe people, must have more children. His Nobel Prize sperm bank would father a cadre of leaders, scientists, and politicians who would help reverse the genetic decline. Graham was not charging his customers or paying his donors. He and his Nobelists were making a gift of the genius genes, a life-saving present to a dying world. Graham promised to study the children of his super sperm, tracking their development, achievements, and IQ. He would publish his findings in scientific journals, vindicating his extraordinary semen and his experiment. Graham outlined his ideas to Chen with an unapologetic bluntness. The principles of this may not be popular, but they are sound, he said. So far, we've refused to apply to humans what we already know and apply to animals and plants. Graham gave Chen a tour of the bank, such as it was. Graham owned 10 beautiful acres in Escondido, a thriving town half an hour northeast of San Diego. In Graham's prize-winning garden, in the shadow of the American flag that Graham flew over his property, sat a concrete bunker the size of a modest bathroom. The bunker was a few feet underground and slightly dank. It had once been a pump house. Graham had converted it into a small laboratory. Its prize equipment was a lead-sheathed, waist-high vat of liquid nitrogen. Graham opened the vat and showed Chen what he claimed was the Nobel sperm, a few dozen ampules frozen at 196 degrees below 0 centigrade. Graham wouldn't disclose the names of his 3 Nobel donors, so Chen wasn't sure if Graham was an honest eccentric or a con artist. Chen called every Nobelist he could find in California and asked if he had made a sperm deposit. One after another said no. A dozen had never heard of Graham's project. Another 10 admitted that Graham had contacted them, but said they had turned him down. Chemistry and Peace Laureate Linus Pauling said he had nixed Graham. The old-fashioned way is still best. Finally, Chen reached Stanford's William Shockley, whose invention of the transistor had won him the 1956 Physics Nobel. Chen asked his question. After a long, long pause, Shockley said, "Yes, I'm one of them. This is a remarkable attempt, and I am thoroughly in sympathy with this sort of an approach. Everyone talks about it, but by God, Graham is doing something about it." Chen had his story. The Nobel Sperm Bank was for real. Chen's Los Angeles Times article provoked an international sensation. Journalists called him by the dozen. So did desperate women hoping to score genius sperm. Graham, too, was inundated with media requests. Reporters from all over the country wanted to see his magic vials and quiz him about his intentions. The press immediately gave the repository a much flashier nickname, the Nobel Prize Sperm Bank. The nickname pleased Graham, who started using it himself. On March 2nd, Graham held a press conference in his backyard. He spent most of the session rebutting accusations of sexism, racism, elitism, white supremacism, and Nazism. Yes, Graham conceded, all his donors were white, and it was true that he gave sperm only to married women, not lesbians or single women. But he was no Nazi. I don't see a parallel. We aren't thinking of a super race. We are thinking in terms of a few more creative, intelligent people who otherwise might not be born. In giddier moments, Graham was dreaming bigger than that. His little repository was a pilot project, he said. Soon it would seed similar banks around the world. Every city would have its own genius sperm bank. There wouldn't be just a few super kids, but thousands of them. Given enough time, Graham mused, genius sperm banks might help stimulate man's ascent toward a new level of being, of which his present organic status may be only the crude beginning. His repository, Graham hoped, might one day give birth to mankind's secular savior. Other people could have conceived the idea of a Nobel sperm bank, but no one except Robert Graham could have conceived it and made it a reality. Graham had the right-wing politics of a self-made millionaire, the relentless inquisitiveness of an inventor, the can-do spirit of an entrepreneur, and the moxie of a salesman. It was also no accident that Graham was in Southern California, the ground zero of American libertarianism. In 1980, California culture was a clash between free-thinking futurism, New Ager Jerry Brown, Governor Moonbeam was in the middle of his second term, and hard-right political conservatism. Former Governor Ronald Reagan had swept the New Hampshire primary just 3 days before the Times article. In Robert Graham, and perhaps only in Robert Graham, these alien theologies intersected. His sperm bank sought to harness scientific libertarianism and dreamy futurism, and put them in the service of rigid social control. Here's my favorite Robert Graham story. In the early 1970s, when he had tired of running his eyeglasses company but wasn't yet collecting Nobel sperm, Robert Graham tried to start a country. He thought an island would be best. Graham instructed George Michel, a vice president at his firm Armorlight, to locate an island that Graham could buy and flag as a sovereign, or at least semi-sovereign nation. Graham instructed Michel that the island should be at least 5 miles wide and 15 miles long.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?